All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted One-on-One Podcast. And today I have another special guest. As we have talked about earlier on some other podcasts, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So just kind of wanted to put a spotlight on awareness this month and share stories. So I would have my guest introduce herself and we will go from there.
All right. Well, first, thank you for inviting me on. And I know Heather had a lot to do with it, but I really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed listening to some of the other ladies' stories or some of the Families with a Cure. That organization is wonderful. So I think this is a great platform for people to share, and hopefully people are listening.
Yeah, we'll see.
So thank you.
Sure.
But my name is Suzanne Glover. We have I have a husband, 3 kids. I have a daughter who's a senior at Otterbein. I have a son who's a freshman at Davidson and a daughter who's a 7th grader at Weaver. Wow. So we're all in Hilliard. We've been here for about 15 years now. So I grew up in a small town about an hour and a half west of here, and then we moved to the big city. So we've been here for about 15 years. Yeah. Okay.
All right. And I think our families, Heather well from swimming. I think
swimming.
Cross paths and swimming quite a bit. So a lot of hours in the pool, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
a lot of hours.
So waiting time around the pool leads to lots of talk time around the pool for
lots of talk time. But well, so thank you again. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And as you said, Heather kind of put out a message on my behalf, asking people to share their story. And as you said, it's so powerful that people would want to come forward and share, just if nothing else, just for the awareness and to have other people hear their story. And if, like I've said, if one person hears this and it whether it gives them courage or whether it gives them hope or whether it gives them a little bit of peace, if they're walking through this now, then it's always worth it. So with that, can you take us through your journey? You can go as far back as you would like, or if you could take us, whatever you feel comfortable with in your story. If you could share maybe a little bit of your story with us, we would really, really appreciate it.
Sure. I think I first from Katie Sladek's video that you did, you brought up the word uninvited.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me. Because that's exactly what this is. Yeah. It is totally uninvited. Any type of cancer, any diagnosis, I mean, really any type of family issue like that, is totally uninvited, and it just messes up everything. Well, it's just a big bump in the road, I guess, depends how you look at it. So that really resonated with me, and I've been kind of marinating on that.
Yeah.
But my story, actually, I couldn't figure out where to start, but I grew up with, my dad was sick our whole lives. He had 2 heart transplants by the time he was 50. He just had a heart condition, but I was raised in a Christian home. We were very joyful and thankful. Yeah. I don't know how my parents did raise 4 kids on 1 income like they did, and we lacked for nothing. And I asked my mom later, she just said, we prayed and gave it to God, and that's how it went. So wow. People would laugh at us because we kind of make jokes a lot about Dad being sick, or his theme song was Staying Alive. I mean, we would sing. So, I mean, we're very lighthearted. And I think that led a lot to the way I've reacted to this diagnosis. And then, so moving forward in 2012, my mom was actually diagnosed with breast cancer. Hers was sudden. She kind of had an opposite, did not have a lump that she found. It was on the outside of her skin. Went in to had it checked. And my sisters and I lived close by, and we rallied around her, and we were with her through the whole process of getting checked. And really, I had not known anyone personally, I guess, or close to me that had breast cancer. And I think you mentioned this on another call, is once you see a car, a certain color, certain kind, yes, you notice that everywhere. And so that's kind of how it started for me. My mom got diagnosed. I really didn't know of many people. And then all of a sudden it's everywhere. So we were with her when she got her diagnosis, and hers had this little tiny spot had metastasized to her bones. So she was immediately stage 4 bone cancer, metastasized from her breast cancer. So even at that point, we were still naive and did not understand the process. She was going to have a lumpectomy. My brain, it's done. It's gone.
Yeah.
We're going to move on. She's taken care of. That's not how it works. So it just keeps going and going. And especially when it's in your bones or any other organ at that stage, it's a tough road for sure. So, we had done that for 4 years with her. Her 4th year in is when I was diagnosed. I actually found my own lumps just one day, and I had a very circular one, and I thought, nah, it's a cyst. It's fine. I'll go get it looked at eventually. And then, of course, women they have to do their checks. So your own body. I think that's the number one key to identifying any type of change in you is yourself. So I knew that wasn't right. And then I found another lump that was I said, it's kind of like a jellyfish.
Okay, we had a little bit of a connection issue there. So back to, you said you were doing some self-examination.
Yeah. So found this other spot that didn't feel quite right. And that's kind of an indicator that something may be more, if it's not circular or hard, or, so that's one of the signs they say to look for. So I remember being in my bedroom, finding it and thinking, oh no. And then went downstairs to the kitchen to my husband and I said, can you feel this? And he's like, yeah. What does that mean? And I said, well, I think it means I need to go to the doctor.
Wow.
So we started, I mean, and then the hardest thing through this whole process, I think, is the waiting. Yeah. And you have days, and it's, doctors, nurses see this all the time, but when it's you personally, it's such a hard thing to do, the waiting for a test result, the waiting to get in to see somebody who can give you an answer. And even just starting the process, I still had to go to one doctor who had to give a referral to another doctor, and then had to get another ultrasound, and then had to do, so it's just constant. So, interestingly, since my mom was diagnosed, so that she did not do any genetic testing or anything. I also found out after I was diagnosed, my dad's brother had a chest mastectomy. So for men, it's rare, not as common. You don't hear about it, but he also had they call for men, it's chest cancer. So my dad had passed away a long time ago. So he's the next closest person. So based on that information and my mom having it, I decided to go ahead with genetic testing as well. So that was another waiting process. But I feel like through the whole time, I just wanted first available for everything. Whoever's available. I went to doctors for an MRI. I went to Grant for a biopsy. I went to Dublin and had the surgery. So wherever they could fit me in. And the whole time I just felt like God was leading the way through the process, because I got in quick. I think I waited from the final time the biopsies came back and I got the diagnosis, was about 5 weeks out till surgery, which is great, because lining up plastic surgeons and the breast surgeon and everybody, it really did go quick. But even the surgeon I got, I remember having the ultrasound done, and they slid 2 pictures to me and said, you need to pick a surgeon. And again, I was like, first available, whoever can see me. I don't know. I don't know these people. And the gal that I got, Dr. Hall Harvey is her name, is a breast cancer survivor as well.
Wow.
She is a breast surgeon with Ohio Health, and a year before had just gone through this entire process. So as a woman, I just felt like, wow, because she really gets it. I felt like I was very fortunate to be able to get with her, and she is amazing. That's
awesome. That all the way all of that happened is awesome. I mean, when I say that's awesome, that's amazing that all took place at the same time. So you had just finished telling, again, we had some connectivity issues, but you had mentioned just the way that it seems like almost God went before you, in that you found all the right doctors at all the right times and all the right things. I get that, because I don't like waiting at all. And I can only imagine the circus that my mind would be, waiting for each appointment, waiting for results, waiting for all those things. I would be so I would be a mess. I'm just not a good waiter, I guess would be the word. I don't know. But so I think I'd probably do the same. Like, just give me first available. Let's go. And then I think, did you feel like you had like an hourglass in your head that said, I've got to, the sooner I can get in, the sooner we can get, or, like if this is taking too long, this is going to delay, my recovery or my prognosis.
Mhm.
So did you feel that way? And is that why you kind of sped up, or was it just like, I just want to get this over with as soon as possible?
No, I feel like my perspective was, okay, I have cancer, and what do we do to get it out?
Yeah.
And get it gone. So that was my perspective, is how quickly can I get in to get this out of me?
Yeah.
You call it a circus. We called it the dark side, letting our
Yes.
minds go to the
Yes.
dark side, just because I know what the word says about controlling your thoughts, but we're human. So it's just natural for your thoughts to go down that path. And I think it's okay to think about it, but not dwell on it.
Right.
So that was the key parts for us is, I remember Mike came home from work one day and I was just sobbing, and he's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I looked on the internet and found all these videos. And he's like, why would you do that? I'm like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So we just had moments of where you feel you almost have to go there and then reel it back in.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, but here's where we're at right now. And this is all we know. And I think that's where my journey has been the most impactful. I'm not a pink ribbon girl. I know there's a group, but I mean, I'm not out there loud. I don't wear pink every day. I don't have a magnet on my car. That's just not me.
Yeah.
But if anyone has, or I should say not anyone. People have come to me asking when their friend has been diagnosed, could I talk to them?
Yeah.
And I'm finding that it's in anything with life, it's the indecision that causes the most chaos in your mind.
Yeah.
Whether you make a decision or not, whether it's good or bad, once you have a decision, you can move forward.
Yeah.
And then you deal with whatever you decided.
Yes.
So I feel like it's where I'm the most helpful with women right now, and the people I've met along the way, is helping them through this waiting time, because it's horrible, because you can't think, especially moms with young kids, not that it's good for anybody, but you worry about them. And I learned with my husband, checking in with him is, how are you doing? Because as a wife and his friend, we're first.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids are great and they're wonderful, but it's really us first. Yeah. So checking in with him, and thank God he's a rock. But, there's those parts of it that you forget about because you're so focused on you and what's inside of you and how are we going to get rid of it. So it's just a journey, but I find like that is where my place has been, and how I can use this story to help others or help other women. In fact, yesterday afternoon, I sat with my neighbor 2 doors down, and she let me know that they just found a spot and she was going to get her MRI today. So here we go. And it stinks. And she said, can I talk to you today? Do you have time? And I'm like, of course. And when we sat down, I said, I was hoping this wasn't what we were going to talk about, but but I'm glad I can help, because I don't feel like I'm doing much, but the feedback I get is, okay, you really helped me just sort through my thoughts. And so that's where I feel like my most helpful part of this journey has been in the waiting with people and helping just get through that. Because once they find out what the next step is, whether it's a surgery or if it's chemo, radiation, you have a decision and you can move forward. And then, okay, here's what we're doing. But until that point, it's very chaotic in your brain, like a circus, going to the dark side. You can't help it. Yeah.
And I think there's a tension that you probably have to walk in it, because you're a parent and a spouse. There's a tension you have to walk between preparing yourself and your family for whatever that might be, but not going too far out on that fringe, like you said, going on the internet. I was going to ask you, did you, because I think that's the first thing I would do, and most of us do, even though we know in the back of our mind, when I go on the internet, it's going to tell me terrible things, which, most of them are not realistic, because each journey is different, each, diagnosis is different. But I would think that I would probably go there and then read some things on the internet, and now I'm freaking out, and I have 3 children and a spouse that I have to be thinking about. So like you said, bring it back to, there's just a tension that relies there that I still have to be, for me, it's provider protector for my home, or my, I have to be the husband and the dad that I need to be for you, is that kind of where you found yourself, was walking in between those, like, okay, I can't get too far out because I still got a lot of things that people relying on me, as a friend told me once. But also taking time to say, I have to be honest and say, I'm scared, or I'm going to fight, whatever it means. Or, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, yes, as a mom, my front in front of my kids is brave.
Yeah.
And we got this. And at the time, the two littles were 10 and 8. So I just kept it at their level.
Yeah.
I'm having a surgery. That my mom, we called her Mama. Mama has cancer. And so they've heard the word, and they knew she's been diagnosed with it. And we've been dealing with that with her. But I'm not like Mama, because she had chemo and lost her hair, all that good stuff. I'm not that like Mama, but I do have to have a surgery. I'm going to have tubes in me, and I'm going to look like an alien when I come home. And they were like, okay, cool. So kind of kept it lighthearted as best as I could. But I think my sisters were the best. They were a great resource for me, because they'd have already gone through the journey with my mom as well. And then just behind closed doors, either by myself or with my husband, we've really get to the, like, okay, I need to vent. I need to get this out. And I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, because in that waiting after diagnosis before a surgery, you have so much to prepare for. It's coming. You're going to be down for multiple weeks. You can't drive. Your husband could take off maybe a week or so, but he had to go back to work. It's just like having a baby. You only get a short amount of time off. Who's going to help us? We were in the middle of swim season for the summer. And of course I had 2 kids at 2 different times. So how am I going to get them there?
Right.
And I was very, the biggest thing I learned was ask for help, because I'll do it myself. And I love to give to others. I love to serve. That's my thing. I find great joy in that. But when people want to give to me, I'm like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. So, in fact, I have a shirt that says I'm fine from a friend.
Right.
I said it too much. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I had to start calling people, and I had to rely on them for help. I had to have people bring us meals, because I had a bilateral mastectomy. I went in, they tested lymph nodes and they came back clear, but in surgery, they came back positive. So I ended up, my procedure was 10.5 hours. So they ended up having to take lymph nodes out and all that good stuff, which is great. I'm glad they found it then. But so I had a lot more other things going on, not just a mastectomy. So I had to have help. And then I had an infection that caused me to kind of go back a couple of weeks in recovery, things like that. So there's just a lot of hiccups along the way in recovery. But I had to learn how to ask for help and take it graciously, and be thankful that I had a community of people, because really, I think that's key too. You can't do this without help. You can't not have people help you. And it's important to let people help you. I learned that because they need to give too. Yeah. So I learned that along the way as well.
I remember that from a friend of mine that walked through cancer, and I remember him telling me that once, and he was stage 4, but I remember 2 things actually that you've said. One was, I remember when he had his first surgery, and they came out and he was stage 4, like I said, and they came out and they're like, we got 98% of it. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so is he good? Is he like stage 2 now, or does that change it? And it was like, no, he's never going to not be stage 4. And that was so hard for me to wrap my head around. I didn't understand that, because I thought you said you got 98%, and so that was one thing. But I do remember him telling me, because he was a servant at heart, and he would always give to others long before his diagnosis. That's just who he was. That's the way he was wired. And so for him to say, I need help, I remember him telling me that was one of the hardest things that he said too, was being willing and being okay to have somebody else come over and cut the grass, or somebody else come over and, paint or go to the grocery store, whatever it was for him. He had such a hard time doing that because he was a servant at heart, and that was a shift. And so the last thing I think any of us want to do is put more stress on someone walking through that journey. We want to be helpful. And I don't remember if it was him or someone telling him that he then told me, somebody told him, like, you have to allow people, you're robbing them of the joy of helping when you say no, you know? And I think that was when he finally accepted it, was at least the help that he got was when somebody told him flat out, you're robbing them of their joy. You're stealing that from them because they want to help you and they are gifted to help you, and you're taking that away from them. So that was something I remember from his, and certainly something for at least all of us, you know, to remember when because I think that's the thing too. We none of us know what to say. You know, there's all the quotes and the cliches, and we want to be helpful, but you know, it probably gets old after a while hearing all the same cliches and you know, when you're walking through it. But keeping in mind that people are just trying to help, you know, they just want to be helpful. So
they don't, it is hard. I totally agree with that. Absolutely. 100%. It's hard to ask for it. It's hard to accept it when you're used to giving it, but you have to learn how to do that. And it's your way of giving to those people and people want to help you somehow. Yeah. So yeah.
What does the future look like? Where are you today? And are you continuing to do testing and those things, or what does the future look like?
Where do you want to start?
Yeah. So the question I think I was going to ask you next is, where are you currently, and where are you in the future? How often do you have to test, and all those things now that you know, where you are?
Yeah. So for me, let's see, I'm 4 years out from diagnosis. Because it went through my lymph nodes, I see an oncologist every 6 months. To be honest, I rarely think about this process until someone approaches me, or it's October, where it's more awareness. But really on the day-to-day, it's not something I dwell on or think about until those visits come up. And again, going to the dark side, you just got to I have to control my mind and my thoughts and know that, you know, God's still in control regardless of whatever the result of this test will be. We'll deal with it again. But so I go to an oncologist every 6 months. I go to my surgeon. I still visit her once a year. And while I don't have to have mammograms or there's nothing, no tissue there, they're checking still to see if there's any changes in shape or around the tissue that's there now. Is there any abnormalities? So they're checking for that as well. So every 6 months at the oncologist, once a year at the surgeon. It's just a process. I think my takeaways from this journey is, one, mammograms are the best way to detect early detection for cancer for women. There's no blood test. There's nothing else that they can do at this time. Yeah. So do the mammograms. Like my kids now, my girls, even my son, I guess, are now, because of my mom, we're 10 years earlier. And now because of me, it's 2 years or 15. I don't know. They're going to be young and they're going to have to start testing. Yeah. I did have genetic testing done, and we don't have the BRCA gene, but we do have I have a variation of a gene. They just don't know a lot about it yet. So now, I mean, the long lasting effects is my girls are high risk forever. Yeah. All of our family will be high risk. My son is high risk. Technically, he needs to be checked. My nieces, my sisters, because of our mom. I mean, it travels and keeps going and going. It doesn't stop. And I think that was the biggest shocker. Like, even with my mom, we learned, okay, she gets it taken out, you're done. Yeah. You're not done. It's not ever done, you know? So, that was a takeaway. And then, I can't remember what else I was going to say. Do your checks, get those done. And mostly in yourself. Women know their own bodies. Yeah. So do your own self checks. There's a lot of videos out there and graphics of how to do that, but women know themselves the best. So if you feel something weird or something odd, it's worth it to go. It's a 10-minute test, even the mammogram. It does not take that long. And early detection is the key. When you find something, it can be, I know a lot of women that are just centimeter spot taken out, done.
Yeah.
And then you just go on. It's a long journey and it's still a process, but boy, that would be, how great to find it early and be able to get it taken care of. Mine, I've been having yearly mammograms and they put one slide up next to the other. And within a year, my left breast was full of tumors. So, but it had only been a year. Right. And they called it slow growing. I thought it was kind of fast. But,
goodness, yeah. Right.
Yeah. So for me, a lumpectomy wasn't an option, which is fine. I was more, and that's another thing. It's very personal.
Yes.
What women decide to do and how they move forward, whatever's, there's laws that protect women to make those decisions.
Yeah.
However long it takes, which is so important. Now that I've been on this journey, it's so important to not have to feel rushed or pressured. And there's a lot of different ways to go about getting it out and being reconstructed, not reconstructed, and it's all good. It's just very personal decision though, how people move on. So, and then for me, I'm on Tamoxifen. You've probably heard that now a few times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I actually had to have a hysterectomy right after the mastectomy because ovarian cancer and breast cancer go together.
Yeah.
So I was having issues there, and it was just decided it was probably a good idea just to have a complete total hysterectomy at the time. I've also had melanoma cancer, skin cancer, which is now they're finding it's connected to breast cancer as well.
Wow.
So so there's a lot of things going on with my body, but it's early detection. I go to the dermatologist, I go to my doctor appointments. Most of the time I don't know if it's worth it or not, but I go anyway because it's important. I want to be here a while.
Right.
So that's what we do. So I take this med. I have to take it for 10 years. Just until I'm sure in 10 years from now, they'll have something else. So, I look forward to that. But yeah, it's been a journey, but we're joyful. We're happy. Our family's doing great. I'm glad I can help other women. I don't, a lot of people, I don't believe God caused this to happen or anything, but I feel like there's something in the journey that is meant for me to share with others. Yeah. So I think that's important, is that not to keep it to myself and to actually share it with people. So that's kind of what I try to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you said it so well. I don't think God causes, but I think he allows sometimes. And when we can take away from that and it could be that it's just to help others, like you said, like your neighbor, like you said earlier. It is early prevention. I mean, it's so crazy. And that was the other thing I remember too, is my friend just you break your arm, you get a cast, you're better, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you have, if you tear up your knee, you have a knee surgery, you're better. He just, and I just had such a hard time getting around that. He's supposed to get better. We're medicine, but we have come so far. I have an earlier podcast today, which it was in the 80s, and her mom found out and they were treating her breast cancer. In the meantime, it had metastasized to other places. And we're so much further ahead now in terms of advances and testing and all those kind of things than we were then. So is there any other resources that you found very helpful that I can include either in the blog post or that anybody listening to this? It's interesting. You said Ohio Health. I think we had someone else that was at Ohio State, and then and maybe both were at Ohio Health. I can't remember, but it's been interesting. Everybody's been somewhere different, and they've all had great experiences. So, what resources do you have?
I don't know. I kind of just went online. I have people ask me all the time, did you go to the James? Did you get to the Spielman Center? And honestly, Ohio Health is connected with MD Anderson, connected with who's a leading cancer specialist, their protocols and the things they follow align with that. So I just let people know I had a great experience. And if I hadn't, or I felt like something was going wrong, sure, I would have switched, but I didn't need to. But I think we're just fortunate in Columbus. We have amazing resources here. And it's not like they don't share with each other. So Ohio State doesn't learn information and not share it with Ohio Health. So they are sharing amongst each other too. So we really get the best of both worlds. And we have world-renowned doctors that are here in Columbus. So we're fortunate, very fortunate for that. But no, I sadly, I don't have a specific resource or anything I went to necessarily. I think they give you overload of information. So I kind of processed it my own way, I guess. And I did look on the internet a lot, but mine was more for, I wanted to know, I had invasive, and I had, there's two types that are in the ducts, milk ducts, and then the kind that comes out. I have both. So I just wanted to know what was that all about. And I wanted to know more about the cancer itself. And there's no rhyme or reason why it comes. Like, my family were just unlucky, I guess. We don't have any genes, but you know, it's just that mutation of a cell, and off you go. But early detection is the key. And I understand what you're saying, because when my mom was diagnosed and they wanted to do a lumpectomy, and we thought, then she's done. Right. It's all gone. And even while she was in treatment, her bones were healing because of some of the chemo she was on. So they were mending. So it was kind of like bone cancer is like having fractures all over your body. They were healing. So we're like, oh, she's getting better. No, she's not. She was not getting better. It just, at the moment, that was what was working. But she was always going to be stage 4, always at a high risk. So and for her, it did end up going to her liver, and she passed away 5 years after her diagnosis, but at 65, so young. So I want to do what I can to be here. And, you know, if it's going to an oncologist every 6 months and I take a pill every day, then that's what I'll do. You know, so.
Well, I'm sorry that she passed, Suzanne. And I just, like I said on one of the other podcasts, I'll be glad when this conversation, not this one between you and I, but the topic of this conversation is no more. That would be a great day. And until then, we just have to keep. I know they're doing everything that they can. At least, you know, I hope that they're doing everything they can to extend and get early detection and get those things done. So I know you said that you tend to be private with this journey, and you know, unless asked. And Heather put that out, you came on, and so thank you for that. Knowing that you tend to keep it private, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being a resource. I know someone's going to hear this, and there will be something that you said that will help them, and so I'm very thankful for your time.
Well, you're welcome. And I hope if anyone's listening, and though I am more of a private person, I'd be willing to talk to anybody. So if you ever have anyone, you know, and I think most women would, but if they just need that voice of someone who's been through the journey, I think that's important, to know that their thoughts are okay. What you're thinking is okay. Going to the dark side is okay for a moment. And you'll get your answers, but it's that moment of waiting that's hard. But you'll get through. And you'll have that decision and be able to move forward.
And to be that voice of peace and calm, especially as someone who's gone through that already, would I'm sure for someone mean the world. So thank you. God bless you and your family. I'm sure you guys around the pool. Hopefully we're again at some point soon. I know I got a daughter that's dying to get in the pool.
With fingers crossed, there might be some news coming soon. So,
I hope so. I hope so for them, for the kids. But thank you so much for stepping out.
You're welcome.
Share your story and for taking the time tonight. All right. Well, God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.